Welcome everyone to another episode of the Change Collective. You've got yourself Matthew from Lavo and my good friend Frischka from Fresh by Frischka. Now today we want to talk about how you resource your change program. So a lot of people will be looking at, well, what type of resources do I need? What level of caliber does the resource need to be? And I know Fresh has got a lot of great insights here. So Frischka, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, can you tell us a little bit about how you would undertake that assessment and what sort of things people should be looking out for?
Sure. There's three questions that come to mind when you're trying to decide how many resources do you need and at what level seniority. So I'll give you an example. I remember being on the phone to this large, well-respected organization whose HQ was based out of London, and they had a significant employee population, 69,000. That is that is double the population of Monaco, for crying out loud. And they were telling me about this big transformation that they wanted to do, right? So it had everything. It had innovation, it had mental health, it had a financial transformation as well. Now, the challenge that I found with this conversation is that they were basing everything on price. The amount of resource that they dedicated to it, a very junior FTE, was completely laughable because we're talking about one of the most transformative changes of their business. And so the questions that come to mind for this is that you should be asking yourself, if this is you and you're trying to determine how much change resourcing you need, think, what's the long-term USP of what you're implementing? What are, across multiple time horizons, what are the benefits? What are the additional capabilities it brings to the business? The second question would be, what is the extent of this change on you, market perception, and maybe other internal measures such as engagement, turnover, diversity, right? This is where your impact assessment comes into play. And lastly, number three, if you don't manage this change well, what are the risks that come out from that? And from that, you can discern your appetite for risk and how much resourcing you would need. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, no, they're perfect questions, and I come back to the scenario that you had earlier that you were talking about. If you're going to pay peanuts, you know what the saying is: expect the monkeys to do the work for you. You're not going to get the quality that you need. So, numbers, caliber of people that you require to implement change really comes down to, as you've quite well articulated, it all comes down to ensuring that if this is a big piece of work, don't put a little bit of money aside for it. You're not going to get the bang for your buck. You need to really understand what is the impact for your employees. What's the impact for the business? I love the reputational point that you raised.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't pay peanuts. And when you pay whatever peanuts that you decide to pay, or pineapples, if you're a little bit of extra cash. If you do decide to pay that, make sure you're paying for it up front. There are a number of things that you need to be considering before you roll out to ensure that everybody in the supply chain, in the value chain within your organisation is getting the right bang for your buck. So, beautifully said. Thank you very much for that. That was brilliant. Well,
You're
that's
welcome.
another Change Collective for this week. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. So stay tuned for next week, and we'll see you on the Change Collective.
See you then.